Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. The first thing I noticed was how quiet the morning was. Normally, I'd hear dogs barking, traffic humming, or someone shouting at their GPS on the corner of 7th and Lark. But that morning, nothing. Not even the birds. I run a food van called Manny's Wrap Shack. Been doing it for almost 10 years, rolling up to office parks and late-night events, serving burritos, wraps, and tacos to tired folks who just want a hot bite and a friendly face. I pride myself on being early. Always have. I like beating the sun to the punch. But on that day, I wish I'd overslept. My shift started at 5:30 a.m. I parked the van outside the city courthouse, prime location on weekdays. I was halfway through setting up the grill when I noticed a guy stumbling across the street. He was barefoot, shirtless, and covered in what looked like red smudges. Thought maybe he was out all night. Wouldn't be the first time I'd seen someone like that. He staggered up the sidewalk, bumping into newspaper stands and light poles, then collapsed a few feet from the van. I froze. "Hey, you okay, man?" I called out. He didn't answer. I stepped out of the van slowly, holding my spatula like it was a weapon. The man twitched, rolled onto his side, and made this sound, somewhere between a groan and a growl. I'd never heard anything like it. That's when I noticed a chunk missing from his forearm, like someone took a bite out of it. I backed up, fast. Another guy jogged around the corner. He wore a rumpled suit and had a bloodstain down his pant leg. "Hey!" he shouted. "Stay away from him!" I stopped. What's going on? They're not right. Something's wrong with people. Don't let them get close to you. Before I could ask what he meant, the man on the ground launched himself towards us. Not stumbled, launched, like an animal. The suited guy grabbed a metal trash can lid and smacked him with it. I watched as he slammed it down again and again until the figure stopped moving. The man looked up at me, breathless, sweat running down his face. "You see what I mean?" I nodded slowly. "I don't know what this is," he said, "but I just saw a whole street full of them tearing through a parking garage. You gotta get out of here." I opened the van door. "You coming?" He shook his head. "I gotta find my wife. She works downtown." He ran off before I could argue. I sat in the driver's seat, heart pounding, hands gripping the wheel. I wasn't sure where to go. My apartment was across the bridge, and traffic at that hour would be a nightmare. But if what that man said was true, traffic wouldn't be the problem. People would be. I turned the key and floored it. As I drove through the early morning streets, I kept seeing them. People staggering, chasing, collapsing. Some were being attacked. Some were attacking. I passed a cyclist being pulled off her bike. A guy screaming for help as someone chased him into an alley. I didn't stop. I couldn't. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. It was Maria, my sister. "Maria, are you okay? Where are you?" Me. "In the van, heading out of downtown. Something's happening." "Maria, don't come home. They're in the building." Dad tried to stop one of them and the call dropped. I screamed her name into the phone. No answer. My first instinct was to turn around. But what could I do? I didn't know if she was safe, hurt, or worse. All I knew was that I had a van full of gas, a bunch of cooking tools, and a city falling apart around me. And it was only 6:03 a.m. I drove without a plan. Just away. The usual roads were already blocked or jammed with abandoned cars. At one point, I swerved to avoid a delivery truck stalled sideways in the middle of an intersection. There were no sirens, no police, no emergency announcements. just silence, broken up by the occasional distant scream. I turned down a side street behind a strip mall where I used to park for lunch shifts. I figured it might be safe, low traffic, hidden from the main road. I pulled behind a closed dry cleaners and killed the engine. My hands trembled as I locked the doors. I needed time to think. I climbed into the back of the van, sat on the cooler, and listened. Nothing but the soft hum of the refrigerator and my own breathing. That's when I heard a soft thud, then another. It was coming from outside. I peeked through the back window. A woman was standing next to a dumpster, her back to me. She was hitting her head against the metal, slowly, rhythmically. She didn't notice me even when I opened the window a crack to get a better look. Her clothes were torn. Her skin looked pale, sickly. Her fingers twitched as she kept striking the dumpster with the side of her skull, leaving a dark smear each time. I closed the window and slid down, hiding behind a crate of tortillas. I don't know how long I stayed like that. Time stopped meaning anything. Eventually, I heard footsteps crunching gravel. Not hers, someone else. A voice followed, rough and desperate. "Hey, are you okay, ma'am?" I scrambled to the front and peeked through the driver's side mirror. It was a man in a security guard uniform. Looked like he was in his early 20s. He approached the woman cautiously. She turned fast. Her face was twisted. Her jaw hung loose, skin around her eyes puffed and bruised. She launched at him. He screamed and tried to backpedal, but she grabbed his arm and dragged him down. I watched as he struggled, kicked, tried to push her off. But she was relentless. And strong. Too strong. His screams faded quickly. I ducked down, breathing hard. I didn't want to see more. That's when I remembered the cleaver. I kept it under the prep counter for stubborn meats and emergencies. I'd never considered this kind of emergency. I crawled back and grabbed it, holding the handle tight. It wasn't much, but it made me feel less powerless. A low knock hit the side of the van. I froze. Then came another knock. Then scratching. Someone, or something, was outside. I held my breath and peeked through the tiny vent near the roof. It was the woman. She was dragging her nails down the aluminum siding, smearing it red. She sniffed the air like she could smell me inside. Then she tilted her head, let out a throaty hiss, and banged her hand against the van door. I stayed still. I didn't move, not an inch. Eventually, she wandered off. It took me another 20 minutes before I dared to start the engine again. Even then, I kept it quiet, rolling out of the lot as slowly as I could. I needed supplies. Water. First aid, maybe a real weapon. The van had food, sure, but no bandages, no tools, nothing that could actually keep me safe. I remembered there was a hardware store a few blocks east. If it wasn't already looted, I might get lucky. The streets were eerily still. Some traffic lights blinked uselessly. A few shop windows had been shattered, but most buildings looked untouched. I parked behind the hardware store and approached the back entrance. It was locked, but the glass was thin. I took the cleaver and smashed the corner of the door's window. It cracked and caved in. I reached through, unlocked the handle, and slipped inside. The store was dark. I used my phone light to scan the aisles. There were signs of chaos, shelves knocked over, tools scattered, but no people, no movement. I grabbed duct tape, flashlights, batteries, a crowbar, a utility knife, and a small camping hatchet. Then I raided the first aid section and stuffed antiseptic, gauze, and wraps into my bag. I even found one of those crank-powered radios near the checkout. As I turned to leave, I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around, heart racing, cleaver raised. It wasn't one of them. It was a girl, maybe 14. Dirty hoodie, scratched-up jeans, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Don't scream," she said quickly. "I'm not like them." I didn't scream, just stared. "I've been hiding in the employee break room," she added. "They got my mom. I saw it happen." She swallowed hard, blinking fast. "I'm looking for my brother. He was supposed to meet me here, but he never came." I slowly lowered the cleaver. "I've got a van," I said. "It's parked out back. You're welcome to ride along." She hesitated, like she'd already learned not to trust too easily. Then she nodded. "Okay." We slipped out the way I came in and climbed into the van. I started the engine and pulled onto the road, unsure of where we were going. She didn't say much at first, just sat silently in the passenger seat, hugging her knees. Eventually, she whispered, "I'm Lily." I nodded. "I'm Manny." The city was falling apart behind us, but for now, we were still alive. And the clock had only just ticked past 7 a.m. Lily didn't talk much. She sat in the front seat hugging her backpack, staring straight ahead, like if she blinked, the world might disappear entirely. I didn't blame her. I tried the radio, static, then faint voices. I cranked the emergency radio I took from the hardware store and finally got a signal. "Please remain indoors. Do not attempt to confront infected individuals. All major roadways are being closed. Emergency shelters are being established. Repeat, remain indoors." Lily looked at me. "Shelters?" I nodded slowly, even though the voice didn't sound convincing. The broadcast was shaky, like it had been recorded in a basement with a battery-powered mic and someone reading from a crumpled paper. The emergency centers were listed: a high school gym, a stadium, a community college up north. But I didn't trust any of them. If people were getting sick fast and coming back even faster, then packing survivors together was the worst possible idea. Still, we needed information. Maybe there'd be someone with a plan, or at least people who weren't trying to tear our faces off. I decided on the community college. It was on the edge of town, away from the densest parts of the city. Easier to escape from if things went south. We drove in silence. The farther we got from the center, the worse things looked. Cars were crashed into storefronts, windows were busted. At one point, we saw a fire burning inside a donut shop. No one around to put it out. We passed a daycare center. The front door was wide open, little backpacks scattered across the front steps. I didn't want to think about it. I just pressed the gas a little harder. At 7:32 a.m., we reached the college. The main parking lot was full. Not with cars, but with people. Dozens of them. Some sitting on the pavement, some pacing. A few were injured, limping, holding bloody shirts to their arms or legs. I slowed the van. "We'll check it out, but we don't stay long. If it looks bad, we leave. Got it?" Lily nodded. "Got it." I grabbed the cleaver and tucked the hatchet into my belt. We climbed out and walked toward the crowd. A security guard waved us over. "You two just get in?" he asked. "Yeah, any room left inside?" He shook his head. "They're turning folks away now, only letting in families with small kids or medical issues. But there's food and water out here, just be careful." Someone said one of them got inside earlier. He didn't need to explain what he meant. I scanned the crowd. It was tense. People argued with volunteers, pushing, shouting. I saw a woman crying over a stroller. A man shouting into a walkie-talkie. No one was calm. No one felt safe. We took some water bottles from a folding table and walked back to the van. "Are we leaving?" Lily asked. "Soon. I want to look around a bit. Just in case they know something we don't." I told her to stay in the van and lock the doors. She handed me her pocket knife as I stepped out. "Just in case." I nodded and slipped it into my back pocket. I walked toward the main building and passed a man yelling at a staff member. something about his wife being inside and not answering her phone. The staff member tried to calm him, but it was no use. Then someone screamed. People started scattering. A woman in the back had collapsed. 2 people bent to help her. That's when she bit one of them. Hard. The second person tried to pull her off but ended up getting scratched across the face. Blood sprayed. People ran. Shouts filled the air. And I saw it. Her eyes, glassy, locked onto her next target. No hesitation. Just hunger. Security rushed in, trying to separate them. One of the bitten ones turned in under a minute, just dropped to the ground, twitched, then came up snapping. It was spreading, fast. I sprinted back to the van, pounded on the side. "Lily, open up, now!" She threw the door open and I jumped inside. "We're leaving. Hold on." I threw it in reverse, spun the van around the curb and peeled out of the lot. Behind us, the parking lot turned into chaos. I saw people climbing fences, throwing folding chairs, anything to get away. We didn't talk for a while, just sat in the moving van, staring forward, jaws clenched. Lily finally broke the silence. They weren't supposed to let people in without checking them. They probably thought they could handle it, I muttered. She stared out the window. They couldn't. It was just after 8 a.m. I had no home to go back to, no family I could reach, and now, no safe zone. The only thing I had left was the van, and this girl I barely knew. The van rolled down back roads with the hum of tires as our only soundtrack. Lily kept glancing at the side mirror like she expected something to come crawling out of the woods behind us. I couldn't blame her. My own hands were locked around the steering wheel, knuckles white. We passed what used to be a gas station. A truck had rammed through one of the pumps. Flames curled into the sky. I didn't stop. No point. Even if the pump wasn't dry, fire and chaos meant trouble. "Where are we going now?" Lily finally asked. "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere we can think." There was a place I had in mind, a campground just outside the city, nestled along an old river bend. I'd cooked there for a music festival once. It was far enough from town to buy us time and maybe safe enough to sleep, even for an hour or two. As we drove, the streets thinned out. No more honking, no more screams. Just the endless buzz of insects and birds, too dumb to know the world had flipped. I looked at the clock. 8:41 a.m. We had been running, hiding, and barely surviving for 4 hours. It felt like days. By 9 o'clock, we reached the gravel road that led into the campgrounds. I slowed the van to a crawl. I didn't trust corners or tree lines anymore. Every turn might be the last. The main gate was open. Either someone forgot to lock it, or they had more pressing problems. We pulled into a clearing near the back, away from any buildings or restrooms. The air smelled like pine and dirt. If it weren't for everything we'd just seen, you'd think it was peaceful. Lily climbed into the back of the van and curled up on a pile of folded aprons. I checked the windows, locked the doors, and sat behind the wheel, staring at the trees. Every sound felt too loud. A branch snapped in the distance, and I flinched. A crow landed on the hood and looked at me like it was waiting for something. Lily had drifted off. Her breathing evened out. I closed my eyes just for a second, but the seconds stretched, and then a pounding on the van door jerked me awake. I grabbed the cleaver and spun around. Lily sat up, eyes wide. "Someone's outside," she whispered. I peeked through the side window. A man stood there, hands pressed against the glass, eyes wild. He didn't look like one of them. His skin wasn't pale. He wasn't covered in wounds. But he looked panicked, terrified. I cracked the window just an inch. "What do you want?" "Please," he gasped. "They're coming. Please let me in." Lily looked at me. "We can't just leave him out there." I hesitated. We didn't know him. He could be infected and just hadn't turned yet. How long ago were you bit? I asked. I wasn't, he cried. I swear, I've been hiding in the trees. I saw your van and ran. I haven't seen anyone alive in hours. I looked him over. No blood, no limping, no vacant stare. Still, I couldn't be sure. Hands up, turn around. He obeyed. I climbed out with the hatchet ready and checked him over. He had a scraped elbow and torn clothes, but nothing that looked dangerous. All right, I said, but one wrong move and you're out. He nodded. Thank you, thank you. I let him in. He sat in the far corner of the van, breathing like he'd just run a marathon. What's your name? Lily asked. Marcus, he said. I was at the college when it all went bad. I ran when people started turning. Hid in a storage shed until I saw your van driving out. I followed the road until I saw the gate here. You didn't get scratched, bitten? Nothing? He shook his head. I swear. We gave him a bottle of water and a protein bar. He ate like he hadn't had food in days. Where are you two going? He asked between bites. Nowhere in particular, I said. Just away. He looked out the van's window toward the trees. That won't be far enough. Not if this spreads the way I think it is. What do you mean? I was pre-med, Marcus said, adjusting his torn hoodie. I read up on pathogens. This, whatever it is, it's moving fast, too fast for normal transmission. It's like the rules don't apply anymore. You think it's man-made? Lily asked. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters now is staying ahead of it. He looked at me. You got fuel? I nodded. Then we keep moving, find high ground, get as far from populated areas as we can. I didn't like being told what to do, but he had a point. And something else bothered me more. As Marcus talked, I noticed a mark just beneath his collarbone. A bruise? A rash? I didn't say anything, not yet. But I kept the cleaver close, just in case. By the time we left the campground, the sun was directly overhead, burning through the clouds like it was trying to boil the world. We had been alive for 6 hours. 6. Felt like 60. Marcus rode in the passenger seat. Lily was in the back, chewing on a granola bar and watching the trees roll by through a crack in the window. None of us spoke much. I couldn't stop thinking about that mark on Marcus's collarbone. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was everything. I took the long roads, routes I knew from years of driving to festivals and outdoor markets. We passed a barn with its doors wide open. Inside, someone had scrawled the words, "Turn back," in red paint across the side. Or maybe it wasn't paint. I didn't stop. By 11 a.m., we found ourselves near an old ranger station. It sat atop a low hill, surrounded by a chain-link fence and thick pine. From the look of it, no one had touched the place in a while. Could be safe, Marcus said, scanning the area. Could be a trap, I replied. But the fuel gauge was dipping, and my hands ached from gripping the wheel. We parked just outside the fence. I handed Lily the cleaver. Stay close. Don't talk unless you have to. The three of us slipped past the gate. It wasn't even locked. The inside of the station was dusty, but intact. Cabinets were still bolted, maps hung on the walls, and there was even a cot in the back. I think we can rest here, Marcus said. I watched him carefully. The bruise on his collarbone was darker now, spreading slightly. Still, he moved fine. No twitching, no vacant stare, but something about him felt off. While Lily inspected the back room, Marcus stood near the radio console. If we can get this working, he muttered, twisting knobs, we might be able to find someone. Authorities, military, survivors, anyone. Try it, I said. He messed with the dials for a while. Static, more static. Then, faintly, a voice. garbled, just enough to hear one word: containment. Then it cut off. We all froze. "Was that real?" Lily asked. "I think so," Marcus said. "They're still trying to contain it. That means there's still a chance." But I wasn't so sure. That's when I saw him scratch his shoulder. Not a casual itch, deep, repeated. I cleared my throat. "You all right?" He flinched, then smiled. "Yeah, just a bug bite." But I knew better. I remembered a guy at the festival last year who got stung by hornets. His whole arm swelled up. Same kind of scratching, same kind of tight smile. I leaned in close and whispered to Lily, "Get your things," quietly. Her eyes widened, but she didn't ask questions. She started gathering the supplies without a sound. "I'm going to check the fuel tank outside," I told Marcus. "Won't be long." He waved me off. "Good idea. We'll need every drop." I stepped out. Took a deep breath of pine air. My heart was racing. I checked the van. Fuel was lower than I'd hoped. Maybe another 50 miles if we were lucky. That's when I heard it. Something scraping the gravel behind me. I turned. Marcus was standing there. But he wasn't the same. His eyes were bloodshot, face pale and clammy. His mouth opened slightly, and for a moment I thought he was going to say something. Then he lunged. I slammed the van door into him. He staggered back with a grunt, more animal than human. "From the ranger station," Lily screamed. I ran, burst through the door, and saw her cornered. Marcus had followed us, but the change had accelerated. He was twitching now, his movements jerky. That rash had spread halfway up his neck. "Stay back," I yelled, grabbing the fire extinguisher from the wall. He didn't, so I swung. The metal connected with his head, once, twice. He dropped. Lily was frozen, eyes huge, hands trembling. I pulled her away. "We have to go, now." But he was just... I know, that's how fast it happens now. We grabbed what we could. First aid kit, water bottles, a hand-drawn map from the wall, and ran. Back in the van, I didn't speak for a while. The road ahead looked endless. Every tree might hide something. Every shadow might be the last thing we ever saw. Lily broke the silence. He tried to help. He was trying. I nodded. I think he really was, but that doesn't matter anymore. Because the truth was, once it gets in you, it's already over. You just don't know it yet. And there was no way to tell who the next one would be. We hit the road again just after noon, 7 hours in. I knew the map well enough to aim for the outer hills, an old rest area that was sometimes used by campers, truckers, and the occasional food truck guy trying to dodge city fees. That was my plan now. Every town we passed looked like a ghost had brushed its hand across it. Traffic lights blinking over empty intersections. Shopping carts tipped sideways in parking lots. A fire smoldering in a field, no one tending it. Still no signs of help, no helicopters, no patrols. Nothing on the radio but static and the occasional emergency tone. Lily sat quietly in the back, hugging my spare hoodie and trying to stay awake. I knew she was close to burning out. So was I. At the edge of a service road, we found the rest area. It was built for truckers, complete with solar lights, a few picnic tables, and a storm shelter built into the hillside. I'd camped here once before during a 3-day festival when I couldn't find a spot. As we pulled in, I said softly, "We'll rest here for a bit, not too long." She nodded. I parked the van so the driver's side faced downhill, just in case we had to coast and make a quick getaway. It was something my uncle taught me years ago. Funny how the little things come back when everything falls apart. The storm shelter wasn't locked. Inside, it smelled like dry earth and old metal, but it was cool, safe, for now. I gave Lily a bottle of water, wrapped a blanket around her, and sat near the entrance, watching the path. That's when I heard it again. A sound I was starting to dread. That low, dragging shuffle. The kind that doesn't come from tired feet, but from something that no longer cares about pain or weight. I turned off the flashlight and peeked through a crack in the shelter door. 3 of them. Walking up the path from the woods. One had a missing shoe. Another dragged a length of rope behind it like a tail. Their heads jerked unnaturally, like they were listening, but not to sounds the rest of us could hear. I held my breath. Lily stirred, but I gently touched her shoulder and she went still again. The figures reached the clearing. One of them sniffed the air. I pressed my back to the cold shelter wall, waited, listened. Minutes passed, the kind of minutes that stretch forever and feel like the last ones you'll ever have. Eventually, they moved on. I didn't breathe until I couldn't hear their steps anymore. We waited another half hour, then I opened the door, crept back to the van, and scanned the tree line. All clear. I woke Lily, and we hit the road again. No more talking. Just silence and the hum of the engine. I stuck to back roads, weaving through the wooded routes only locals knew. At 2:13 p.m., I reached the overlook that marked the halfway point to the county border. From there, I could see down into the next valley, and what I saw nearly made my knees give out. Dozens of people, survivors, huddled together behind a barricade of trucks and cars, campfires, tents, someone holding a sign that read, "Quarantine Zone Clean Area." For the first time all day, I felt something that almost resembled hope. I pulled over, turned off the van, and looked back at Lily. "We made it," I said. She smiled, just barely. As we approached on foot, 2 people in hazmat suits stepped out. They didn't raise weapons. They didn't bark orders. They just said, "Do you feel sick? Any bites? Scratches?" "No," I said, "none." They scanned us, asked us questions, took our temperatures. It all felt like a dream. After a long silence, one of them nodded. "You can come in." Lily looked up at me. I let out the breath I didn't know I was holding. We walked past the barricade, past the people, past the fires. I still had my van. I still had my hands, my eyes, my name. But I wasn't the same. 12 hours ago, I was flipping burgers, laughing with regulars, serving up hot dogs with extra mustard to drunk kids at 2 a.m. Now, I was just another survivor of the first 12 hours of something that would change the world forever. And deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.